The biggest one is the messages, because sometimes people put comments on their assignments that they're really upset about. So I have it set now where I get those comments. Okay, so happy Valentine's Day. What do you guys think about when you think about Valentine's Day? You like me? You think about Valentine's Day viruses? They're so famous. There's been so many of them. They're so awesome. Oh, was shipping company hard for Valentine's Day? A little busy?
Yes.
A little busy. Yesterday, some guy was delivering flowers to our house, and my husband was just going outside. And the guy was on the front porch. He started being real. He was like, sorry. Like, my husband was out there looking for him or something. My husband scared him to death. We didn't know the guy was out there, so I guess he was late. But they were pro flowers, and they were delivering late. So have you guys seen any Valentine's Day viruses? Remember, you're the extreme target audience. The first ones came out as emails, and they found that something about programmer personality types, you know, maybe looking for love in all the wrong places, those kinds of things, that programmers were really bad about opening these emails that said, I love you, and an I love you message. And so we had a lot of trouble. Last year, they say there was an I love you bot that reactivated from this old I love you virus. It was from the early 2000s. You shouldn't have gotten that one. But the new one was a bot, I guess, last year. So you'll have to look and see a little bit more about it. I didn't check into it a whole bunch. But Valentine's Day fun, it's always good.
We'll go buy some flowers thing over here.
Is there flowers? Oh, yay. That's what you need. Get them before they freeze. This is my calendar in Outlook. You don't have to worry about my doctor's appointments and stuff. But I want to remind you guys we don't have school Monday and Tuesday next week, right? Don't come. Don't be here for those days. Now, because of that, I changed all our assignment due dates again. I hate changing dates, but I keep doing it this semester. So I've moved all the assignments that were due on the 19th to the 21st. So make sure that you see that from your end. The other thing we need to watch for is those closed dates, because I just draw these assignments in the calendar. So let me know if something closes on you before it's due, so I can fix that, because that can happen. So I hope everybody has an awesome 4-day weekend planned. On Tuesday, we have to work. It's a day that we have to work. And first, I got an email earlier in the week that said I didn't have to go to the afternoon thing because I did it in October. And they said, and she said, and there are no plans for morning, so you get to grade all day or whatever. Oh, awesome! That never happens. And then I saw a Facebook message that said there's this thing that lasts 2 hours in the morning, and I thought, no, email trumps Facebook message, right? So I'm still going with it. I don't have to do anything in the morning plan. So then she sent an email. Said, oh yeah, don't forget there's this thing in the morning. So it's like 2 hours of hearing about all of the other departments. It'll be wonderful, because I don't know anything about like the English department. Okay, so yay, it'll be fun. We were doing this awesome PowerPoint last time, and we jumped out of it to do some samples, but we want to do a couple more talking about what we're going to be doing, because look at these things, they're crazy. So I know you would copy this into your OneNote notes. Don't forget to open those OneNote notes if you want to keep going. The last event handler we did last time on Tuesday was what? What did we call it? It was an action event. A what? It was our OK handler. It's a class, right? So our handler has to be an instance of the handler class. And then the first time we created our class, a handler class, we had our own separate class, and we gave it a name and everything. The second time, remember, we made it an inner class. So it's just embedded within that other class we were working on. And so it's kind of a class within a class. Now we're going to take that a little bit further and say that we can use an inner class that's anonymous. And we've talked just a little bit about these anonymous classes. It's basically a new instance of a class that isn't named. So we can't refer to it by name. to set any properties or anything. It's anonymous. But Java programmers love it because it lets us squish our code even closer together. Okay, so let's think about it. We're going to end up with our tester class that's testing our form. We're going to have an event handler. The event handler is going to be associated with a specific handler class. The handler class is going to have that method handle inside of it. And at some point, we're going to create an instance of that handler class to associate with our button. So we do have a lot of pieces. There are definitely a lot of pieces in doing that. So let's do an anonymous inner class. So I want to open NetBeans. And I haven't been doing good about sending my NetBeans stuff to GitHub. I know you guys are doing better. I lose things. But for this one, there's an example in the text. And I know sometimes I like to have classes where we're doing completely separate examples. And then sometimes I kind of like to use the examples in the book. And in this case, I like the examples in the book for right now because we're looking at some pretty complicated code. And I like for you to have that example that you can look back at if you have any questions. So this one is going to be listing 15.4. And I want to create my main class, but I want to create it with a different name. So I'm going to name it Anonymous Handler Demo. Whenever I look at the people that are in the entry-level classes as compared to you guys, it's so amazing what all you've learned and done. And some of the people that are in C#1 are having a little bit of difficulty understanding how to use Visual Studio and naming things and finding their stuff. And they mentioned that. They said, you know, sometimes we just click OK and don't even pay attention. And now you're wanting us to pay attention. And it's like, yep, it's something that you learn. So you guys have learned to just look at all of these things that are around and gather all this information. And it really does take some practice. Now, our Anonymous Handler demo is going to extend that application class. And we're just going to have a start method in this one. We're not going to have any of those other handle methods or anything at the moment. Now our start, again, is going to receive a stage, the primary stage. And I'll put my curly braces, and then I want to put the @ override. Beautiful. So this application is going to be really small. We're going to have a little form that says programming is fun, and we're going to have 4 buttons on it, up, down, left, and right. And as we click the buttons, we're going to move the actual text around the form so that we can see how to move that object a little bit based on those buttons. So while we do this one, we'll be using the anonymous inner class to make those buttons do their work. So in our start, we have some variables that we need to create. Let's create, first of all, a text variable. This is our text that we're going to be able to move around, not rext, sorry. Now we want this text box to be 40 points by 40 points and say programming is fun. Programming is challenging. Uh-oh, I got all sorts of errors. We need some import statements, don't we? Let's do it. Java fx.application.application. For this one, we need Java fx.event.action event. We need event.event handler. Okay, we need geometry.pos, scene.scene, scene.control.button, which should be a lowercase c there. Scene.layout.border pane. Scene.layout.hbox. Scene.layout.pane. Scene.text.text. And finally, stage.stage. Good, okay, now I don't have all those errors about my text object, so much better. Now after creating my text object, I want to create a pane. We'll call it pane. And it's just going to be a standard pane object. And it's going to hold our text object that we just created. Now let's create an H-box for our buttons. So our buttons will have button BT up. And it will say up. We'll have another button BT down. And it will say our down. And then left. And right. Now as we create our H-box, let's put all these buttons in. Then so we want our up, down, left, and right. We're going to set some spacing there. We're going to set the alignment within our H-box that we want everything to be positioned in the center. Oh, thank you. I think I need an uppercase V there, don't I? Now we're going to create a border pane to put our H box in. So when we create our border pane, we'll add our pane to it, and then we're going to add our H box to the bottom. We like those buttons at the bottom, right? Beautiful. So this is going to be really like one of the ones that you'll have in the next chapter. So we want to do it. But now we're ready to really look at these anonymous interclass action events. So first, we're going to create and register a handler. So we're doing this right now for our up button. So in our up button, if you remember from last time, it was the set on action method that we used to associate an action event with our button. Well, so that's where we can create the anonymous inner class. So right here, instead of where it says null, we're going to say we're going to use a new event handler. And that event handler, like our previous event handlers, is going to be using an action event data type. So after the action event closing bracket, I'm going to put an opening close parenthesis. Now that is basically setting up the method header. So if we look at this where it says event handler, action event, open and close parenthesis, that's kind of what we would expect in the parameter part of our action event handler. And we can cut it down to just include that part. Now that's starting our anonymous inner class. We want then a opening curly brace. Now when we have the opening curly brace, notice we still have this closing parenthesis and semicolon. We want to keep that. That's going to be at the end of our anonymous inner class. So once I've got my event handler header, I have my opening curly brace to say that here is the text or the code that is part of that action event. So let's put that in. We have to use the @ override because we are still overriding the handle event. The handle event expects a parameter of that action event to be passed to it, and it's going to call it E. Now, in our handle event, again, we're going to need open and closing curly braces. So for this handle event, we're going to move our text. So let's look at our text box. And in our text box, we want to set the value of the Y coordinate. Remember, the Y coordinate is going to be determining the vertical aspect of the top left corner of our form. So we want to set that Y value to something different. So what we want to set it to is going to depend on what it is right now. So we're going to use the getY function to find out what Y is right now. And if Y is greater than 10 right now, we're going to use that ternary if statement to say, well, I want to figure out what text.getY -5 is. That's what I want to set it to. Now, if my getY is not greater than 10, I'm going to set it to 10. Is it happy? Sometimes we have to read from the inside out. we're going to start out with that ternary if. Right here for our condition of our if statement, we're saying, using that text property, get the value of y. Is the value of the y coordinate greater than 10? If so, we're going to subtract 5 from it. If not, we're going to make it be 10. That's the whole code in our inner anonymous class. Is it upset with you? It's some ugly code.
Everything's under.
Everything, huh? So let's take a look at some stuff here. You see it?
Nope, that didn't do it.
First of all, notice that our set on action event parameter, this opening parenthesis, the last thing we're going to do is close that parenthesis and have our semicolon, okay? So that parenthesis set is going to be the first thing in our anonymous event handler, and it's going to be the last thing. Now, within the parentheses, we're saying what kind of object we're going to create, and then we have our opening curly brace that should match up with our closing curly brace right here before the parenthesis. And then for the actual handle method, we have its opening and closing curly brace that should match up.
Okay, I get Untitled types anonymous account there, but cannot be converted. Yeah, also. Oh. Closing curly, I don't know why. Do all enter on that.
What?
All enter on this time.
You have to put him on the board. Can you share your screen for us?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to quit sharing mine. Okay, guys, let's look at Jay's. I don't see the problem.
Make it large.
Alt.
Alt control. Scroll.
Alt wheel.
Alt and the wheel should make it a bigger font.
There it goes. Okay, so look at that event handler. I'm not seeing it. Do you see the problem? We've got the new keyword, event handler, action event within the greater than, less than brackets.
Click on the text that's red underline, and then click Alt Enter.
You're missing a parentheses when you're in a text.set line.
Which one?
Text.set line.
You see it in there?
You need a parentheses.
To open it.
You need your opening parentheses.
Here. Yeah, you're missing in front of that the text set line.
Oh, I see it.
You need that in front of that.
Yeah, close that and I'll bring it up again. Release that. Share. Because that is it. You guys are so good.
This one there is a model of buttons too. It's got to be above there.
Oh, like an HBox. You have the HBox.
HBox was there was a spelling here.
So right here on that text set Y, I think it was missing the whole text.set Y part.
Yeah, That's your condition.
Oh.
Do what?
He had it open and closed, and then the algorithm that was inside it, he didn't have to get why to test it. But he was
Test it again. Good job.
I have some underlying things too.
What's the matter?
Oh,
This HBox,
they just needed the open brace.
looks the same as everybody else.
And now that should be, this is misspelled, right? Capitalized.
And I have the layout
Lower-
HBox
lower case.
report.
No, capital H.
Like,
capital H.
it doesn't really give much of it.
What is it?
You have to see if you actually passed it.
I don't know why. It doesn't like me, because that was the only thing. Oh.
Well, that red line, it's new H box.
It doesn't like.
I think he's forgot to try to save it.
Here, go ahead and share your screen.
There's.
Or unshare. You can share. But all these fresh eyes look. Okay, share for us. Okay, guys, if you can look at her HBox statement, do you see something wrong? Can't see it?
Do you import each box?
Yes.
Can you click on the red underline there? And then click Alt Enter?
It's really not very helpful most times, you guys. Don't use that. You're past that point. You are not a beginning programmer. Don't use that anymore. But you do need to see what the error is. So what's it, you know, what it says over here.
Control Shift I cannot be converted to node. Button cannot be converted to node. Button.
Check all your buttons, recreate your buttons, make sure. Do you have button input?
Yeah, it should be mad about that if it wasn't. Oh, good job. You guys caught it.
It's gotta be FX.
That's our big one, isn't it? So that's going to cause those kind of troubles. Good job.
Oh,
And every time it'll be weird like that, where it'll be not very good description.
dot C.
Now that's interesting. Yeah, scroll down.
Scene, not scene. Scene, not.
Oh, scene. I'm sorry. I thought you said C.
That's all right. Perfect. I'm glad it was that because
You need scene, not. What you can do.
it's 4.
There you go.
Beautiful. Good job, you guys.
Okay, now I have this number 40.
Make that a guess. Make that one a guess.
So you're missing the greater than in between, right before the 10. That's supposed to be the first 10.
That's the first.
That's supposed to be a condition there. Perfect. She's got it. All right, now I'm going to take it back here. You guys are so good. Let's see what we can do here with it. Okay, if we can continue on then, great. Let's test this thing. Now, we're going to make more of these anonymous action event handlers, but I'd like to go ahead and create our scene and test before we try them so that we can see as we go. So after this event handler, let's create our scene. And our border pane is our pane that has all of our objects on it. We're going to set our title to be something like Anonymous Handler Demo. Now, the only button that we have set up right now is our up button. I'm going to put my launch statement in my main. Let it move up. And that's leaving us at 10, where we said we just want to set it to 10 if it was up that far. So good. So let's see, for our down, we need to copy this. So let's copy our action event. So we started with a comment. So if you have the comment, you could start there. And then we want to end with the curly brace parentheses semicolon. Now that's awkward. We don't see that when we're programming until we get into this advanced stuff for Java. So it does look a little different than things we're used to. I'm going to copy that whole section and paste. And then I want to set it up for my down. So for our down button, we're going to have to do things just a little bit differently in our down button. So we can't do exactly the same. So let's put in, well, actually we sort of are, sorry. Let me Control Z. It's just a lot longer. So we're going to be looking at the text. We want to set our Y coordinates, because again, that's our up-down position. Whenever we're looking at our text to set, we want to get our Y position. But this time we're going to compare our Y position to something different. So I'm going to move the rest of that down out of the way. What we want to check and compare the Y position to is pane.getHeight. Now I'm going to get rid of the greater than 10 part, and then my syntax should be acceptable. Make sure that's how we want it though. So if we move down, we're going to get Y and then add 5 to it because we want to move down. If our Y position is not less than the height of the pane, we're not going to set it to a specific value like 10. We're going to set it to the height of the pane. So see if that works. Should be able to go up and down. Or down should eventually get upset. Come on, come on, come on. There it finally stops and sticks. So what about moving left and right? In that case, we're going to need to change the position of our X coordinate. So I can paste all of that code again. And this time I'll make it BT left. Now to move left, I'm going to be setting the position of X. So I want to get the position of X. And if the position of X is greater than 0 instead of 10, I'm going to say I want to update it to get X's position -5. Otherwise, set it to 0. I want to look at this as far as an alternative. I could say that I have an integer that's our new X position, because I want you to think about what all is going on in this one line of code. I have an integer that's going to be our new X position. What I want to do is, based on an if statement, if text, can't type, dot get X is greater than 0, then I want my new X to be equal to the current position of X -5. Oh, it's a double. Change that to a double. My new X, not a W. And then my else would say our new X should be set equal to 0. And then after the if statement, I would be using text dot set X to the new X position. So this one line of code up here is equivalent to all of this code here, right? Because we're saying at the very beginning, we're going to update the position of X for our text property. To update it, get its current position. Is that greater than 0? If so, set the new X property to whatever it is now, -5. Otherwise, set it to 0. So I just really want you to get the clarity there that those are the same. You know, as Java programmers, we like to do things in as few pieces of code as possible. And if we can squish it all together, it's better. Yes, sir.
Can you scroll just a little bit?
Sure. What do you need?
Just a little bit more. There you go.
Is that good? Okay, so does our left work?
Can you scroll up to the button down?
Mhm.
Thank you.
I see. So speak up.
Now, if you want to, go ahead and set the right in. Our right is going to be kind of like,
Yeah, no errors.
Oh, mine
didn't work? Didn't work? What's it do?
I clicked right and it totally disappeared from the screen.
Oh, now the right is going to do our pane again. So I'm going to copy my down button. And you guys,
Oh,
Because you're asking it. Yeah, one right didn't work. I wonder if it's actually putting it off the screen. You have it set to less than 5. Yeah, probably. I didn't change that, I bet you.
okay, let me get this right button in and then we can go to wherever you guys need to see. For the right button, again, we're working with X instead of Y. And what we're going to do here, when we want to set X, we're going to get X and compare it to see if it's less than the pane width. So for our movement across or up and down the screen, we did the pane height. For moving across the screen, we're going to be comparing to the pane width. Now they've added a little bit more, and they say if it's less than the pane width minus 100. So maybe that whole pane width is just a little too much. Now when we set X, we're going to add 5 to it, or set it to the pane get width minus 100.
So is it basically just stopping at 100?
Like 100 points before the end, yeah. So see if you can tell where that is. If that's some sort of border left, it goes all the way to the edge.
It'll cut off some of it.
Does it?
I narrowed my screen, so yeah, it cuts off.
Narrowing the screen is a smart idea. I should have done that.
Saved you several.
Lots of clickies.
Can you move your properties so I can get the
Uh-huh. But you have to let me test sometimes too. Remember, it's in Ravel.
I know you just move it over.
Mm-hmm. It's okay.
Very slow. Oh, that's what I did.
Yeah, it's no, right inside the no.
Just trying to set up the
Oh my gosh, they're going to come get those monitor mounts. How exciting.
Declare double to that. Just double.
Well, that's cool. I'm going back. But I'm not supposed to do it. Where's your left?
I just said my thing. That's just that one.
All good?
So,
One red line.
are you saying?
Up a little
What
bit.
you said? Oh, yeah, you gotta watch out for that because you're telling me to go up and down.
I think you need a closing parenthesis after zero.
How could you guys be there?
Close after that. Yeah, no, it's right there. There's that.
Why is somebody put longer, a longer
I
text?
don't think it needs to be after 5. It needs to be right there. Give it a line.
Could we use the length?
No, the one there, you need one at 0. I don't think you need it at 5.
I just don't like it.
Oh, sure.
Do it.
That's the point.
No, that's why you want to.
Oh.
Because otherwise, it's dependent on all of those other things.
Yeah, a lot of the times I'll just go through the book and try to look at some examples. You can see how those work.
Yeah.
Basically.
Everybody good?
At the moment.
Yay!
You have to go to the right end.
Yeah, you literally just, if you get stuck for like 20 or 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Move your markers.
You don't have to go to the right end.
That's why it's video. Okay, so video. You should go to the side page.
Yeah.
It's in there. I heard correctly, she's got this one, it's right out of the book.
Yeah,
So it's in there.
it's in there. Now, you're on the PowerPoint. It is about page 16 or 17 that's talking about these anonymous interclasses. I'm going to go ahead and paste this one anonymous interclass example into my notes so that I would have an example of that code. Now, if there's anything that you want to put on there, note-wise, for me, I would really point at this ending construct. That was really hard for me to wrap my brain around. I don't know why. I was just super used to you know, curly braces not being followed by anything. So it was a hard one for me. It messed everything up. But other people, there are other things about it that might seem confusing to them. This is basically the part of the event handler that would be after the equal sign when we say new event handler, right? So that's the header of our anonymous class. If we were passing parameters into our event handler, we would actually have information in those parentheses. You see it?
Oh, wow, it's way too tiny. That didn't do any good.
Now, while you guys are getting your notes straight, let me tell you a couple of important things about these anonymous event handlers. Because the handler is created anonymously, it has to use the default no-ARG constructor of the class. So we are not going to be able to pass any parameters in or arguments in. And this is considered a special kind of an inner class. So the inner class that we looked at earlier was an inner class, but it had a name. An anonymous inner class is an inner class without that name. So it combines the class definition and the instance creation of that button into one step. So it does do a lot for us, and it can be a little bit interesting of syntax to look at. So one more type of syntax that we have is the Lambda expression. The stuff might be going sideways here, but this construct is called a Lambda expression. So that's going to just be a hyphen greater than. It's not any sort of special character, but it is special when we're programming. And it sort of indicates like some stuff missing, like that anonymous inner class is missing the name. So what we're going to be missing is all of the stuff that we put about that class header, that class block where we had the new event handler. If we use the Lambda expression, we can get away from even that. Plus, we don't need a handle event because we're not implementing that class. We're not creating an inner class. We're just saying this Lambda expression is going to allow us to create this anonymous inner class on the fly without any of those names or anything associated with it. Here's the syntax we're going to use. We'll start out with our button or object name again, using it set on action event. Then within our parentheses, we'll start with the parameter of that action event class, or our handle method, that it wanted an action event, and we're going to name it E. Then we'll have the Lambda expression followed by our opening and closing curly braces. Within our curly braces will be the body of basically our hidden handle event. Okay, so we'll be overriding lots of different things here, implying a lot of different things here, but it lets us get rid of a lot of that extra code that is kind of overhead. So let's try one. Here's a picture. Look, it makes everything so much easier because now we just have our method to handle that action event. So let's do one. Keep me signed in. It's trying to log me off. Hang on. In order to make this one a little bit quicker, let's copy all of this code that we have. And then I want to create a new project. So our new project is going to be listing 15.5. And I'm going to name the main class down here, LAMBDA, Lambda, Handler, Demo. Now, in our Lambda Handler demo, I'm going to paste all that code, and then I'm going to change the class name. So let's paste it. It says, do you want to resolve these imports? Sure. Now, I've got an error here on my class name, which is what I expected because that's not the name of my .java file. So I'm going to fix that. Make it Lambda Handler Demo. I'll show you this real quick because it made the C# class yesterday. I think programming is fun. Fun, fun, fun. Let's check. Glassdoor is a job search website. Let's see if we can search for Java. I'm going to put a space after it, so maybe we won't get JavaScript. Nothing wrong with JavaScript, but I just want to search for Java. Oh, yep, there's a bunch. There's some out here in Springfield. Now, there's not like multiple pages, but this is a lot of jobs for our area. Huh? You want to do Kansas City? Is there more there? Probably. There usually is. You don't want to live in St. Louis. Sorry, that's just me. I have a lot of family in St. Louis. How people in St. Louis, like they are like they're in Chicago. So yeah, there's a lot in Kansas City. Oh, look at this one. 22nd century technology. Ooh, let's go there. Look at that job. Look at that salary. Can you see it? That's a really nice salary. That's pretty good for Kansas City.
Yeah.
This one?
83, 122, yeah.
Tassicom. I'm not familiar with either of those.
Tassicom's like real old. It's such a huge.
Are they?
It's not. It owns a lot of other companies.
Reviture is one that's a good place to work. Do they own a lot of it? There's one place in Kansas City that's like a sweatshop. So you have to be careful up there because there is a few places up there that are sweatshops where they'll give people $9,000 or $10,000 for getting you to come in to the company, but then they kind of have people working 80, 90-hour weeks. So be careful with some of them. It's still a good place to work when you're first starting out, you know, because it gives you experience. It's just kind of rough to get it. A lot. You get to it bad. So how much is that? I did this for these guys yesterday. She's seen it. Well, let's think about it. I was kidding with them yesterday. I said, in Joplin, I know McDonald's went to $10 an hour several years ago because they couldn't get people, right? So they were like, we'll pay people $10 an hour so we can get people. So let's say we have someone that's working a $10 an hour job and they work 40 hours a week. So that gives them $400 a week. And of course, they don't get anything near that, right? Because taxes are going to come out and a million other things, and they're going to get a lot less than that. So how many weeks are in a year? You guys did that calendar too. 52. So they get that every week. So I'm just going to do 50 and then I'll add because I like even numbers. So that comes out to $20,800 a year. So $10 an hour comes to $20,000 a year. And you're looking at jobs where they're talking about $110,000 a year. So that's a really big change. Really big, 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 big.
It's even better if you just go to a software developer.
Yes. So yes, programming is fun. Where else are you going to go get a job like that after 2 years? You can't be a doctor after 2 years. I don't know if doctors are going to be making as much as programmers in a few years. Because, you know, with all of the hospitals keep lowering their salaries and they keep having to pay so much for malpractice insurance and stuff. I mean, we're really getting to a point where I think software developers are very close to what a lot of doctors make, not like the brain surgeons and things like that. I think they do pretty good. But we do have to remember, yes, it's fun. It is fun. It is fun, 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 fun. Well, not always, but it does make fun a lot easier to buy.
It makes fun more accessible.
Yes, it is definitely not the be-all, end-all, because definitely we can have a ton of money and still not be happy. That's right. So let's change these to Lambda. That's all I want to change in this. We just copied it. So let's go down and I want to find our BT up. So right here where it says set on action, we're going to change this. And instead of having the new event handler action event stuff and the override and the public void handle event, we're going to delete all of that so that the first thing after that open parenthesis is our parameter action event. Now, after that action event parameter is where we put in our Lambda expression. Now, we still have an error, and the error is the closing curly brace for that handle method that we deleted. So I need to delete that curly brace, and then everything should be clean. Still mad at you? Let me do it again to show you because it's kind of weird.
I think I deleted one extra thing.
So I'm going to Control Z back to where it was.
I deleted.
Do you get it?
some undo event I didn't need to, so
Yeah, we delete everything except our handle event
I deleted
parameter.
that first open parenthesis.
And then we delete the handle event closing curly brace and put in our Lambda expression. And everything should be clean. It's a lot shorter. Now the next one, we're going to make it even shorter because we can still illuminate more. Now, when you're coding like this, if you do it all the time, it's going to be perfectly clear when you look at it. It's not going to be a problem. Actually, a Java programmer that does this kind of stuff all the time would probably argue with you more about the first way we did it, where we had that separate event handler class, the kind of old school way, because they probably never do it that way. They'd be like, I don't know what you're doing. Why are you going to all that trouble? So that was the original way. And Java developers, because Java is all open source and people can develop things, different developers have come in and said, well, this is dumb. I really hate that extra class being in the same file. Can't we just pull it into this same class and make it an inner class? And then other developers have said, well, let's illuminate it even further and really squish it down. Try to get to more like some other languages with their handling of some of these things. All right, so that shouldn't affect our up button. We should still be working. Now with our down, do what? Is it mad at you?
I got on there.
There it is.
You got it. Okay, for our down button, we're going to delete everything except the E inside our parameter list. Now we're going to say, Java knows this is an action event. It knows we're replicating the handle method. Why do we need to specify that E is an action event here? That's dumb. So we're going to get rid of that redundancy now too. So now I'm going to take out this data type action event. And I'm going to take out all of the class definition and that handle method. Now my E, I also am actually able to go a little further. We will next time. But I'm going to put my lambda expression here and get rid of my extra closing curly brace. So we just deleted even a little bit more on that one. So instead of saying it's an action event named E, down here we're saying, duh, we know it's an action event. This is an event. We're just going to specify the E. We don't need an E there. We could make it anything we wanted. We can make it EG. Try it. So that's even limiting it a little bit further. So the lambda expression is figuring out these component parts that we're leaving out, implying from the fact that this is an event, what kind of code must be there. Okay, one more, a little further. Our left. Now for our left, I'm going to delete even the parenthesis before the E. So I'm going to delete everything from the new to the E. And then I'm going to get rid of that closing parenthesis even. Put in my lambda expression. And get rid of my extra closing curly brace. I'll get rid of all this alternative code too so we can see how short it is. So each time we're seeing that we can just take a little bit more out and let that lambda expression take care of resolving that for us. So here we went to the point of saying, well, we don't have to tell it it's an action event, but we'll still say that E is the parameter value, it's within parentheses. Down here we're saying, well, you know we're going to send you a parameter. So here it is, we don't even need those parentheses for it, because that's just our parameter. Now that should be, let's see. What about our last one, our right? Oh, for the right, we're going to do it just the same as the left. So see if you can get it all the way down, shave down to just that smallest amount of information. Now we can use lambda expressions for different things, but we're going to see it more often when we're talking about action events than any other kind of thing. If we were doing like Android Studio development, and of course, you know, Google is kind of moving everybody to this Kotlin programming language away from Android Studio with Java. But if we were using Android Studio with Java, we would see a lot of lambda expressions because they're trying to minimize the code that goes onto the device. Plus, it's just a cool way to do it. Okay, so I'll fix mine. Does it work?
Well, it sat there with an underline. I looked and going, what did I do wrong? I looked up at yours and looked down and the underline was gone.
Oh, we just seen it in a second there, huh?
It was waiting for me.
You're just being too fast. All right, if everybody's is working, let's go back to your OneNote notes and make some notes about that lambda expression. Decide which modules or which methods here you want to copy into your notes to kind of highlight that for yourself. Now they say that, bless you, it's recommended you use lambda expressions because they produce shorter, clearer, and cleaner code. And C# moved to allowing lambda expressions in not their last release. So Java is, of course, the trendsetter that started with it first, and now we'll see it in some other programming languages too. Bless you.
I knew that. It's expecting on BT down, expecting the summer.
Bless you. We got something wandering around in here, making everybody sneezy.
Can I see BT down?
Sure. There it is.
Oh.
Do you see it? I think that it's really hard to see problems with this.
Expected a semi, but I wanted it open.
It can be a little bit harder to narrow it down. We're used to looking at different code. We'll get used to it though.
That's nothing true, but it's coming.
I think it's super neat.
I mean, granted, it printed it this small, so I had to drag.
I know, that's what I've just given up on showing everybody what to do because I spend all my time trying to increase font sizes and stuff. It's so small for showing on the projector. Small.
Yeah, you don't have access to it. Because you have to tell. Don't have.
Okay, well, you can.
This and get rid of the other stuff.
I don't know. That's a really good question, mostly because of backwards compatibility, so that people will not have to rewrite their old code.
It kind of reminds me of the days of top-down
Yeah.
list programming.
It's just like that they just keep allowing all this old stuff so that people don't have to go do rewrites.
Yeah.
And then makes it really hard to teach people stuff because you have to teach them 15 ways to do everything because nobody will get rid of all old stuff. Man,
It reminds me of going into code in the 90s. Stuff that's written in the 60s.
it is like that.
Well,
And
you're
now
not
it's
supposed to
stuff
have
that's
this,
written in the 60s still. Okay, events. You guys, all of this we're talking about is event handling, right? When we're working with Windows or an X-based graphical Linux system, we're talking about event handling. So there are specific events that we can look at that have to do with specific devices, like a mouse. So whenever a mouse click event occurs, we're going to have a bunch of stuff available to us from that event, right? Now it says that for UML diagrams, you guys come with us now. Stop worrying about it. We'll get back to it later, but we're done worrying about it right now. Okay, so whenever you're working with a UML diagram in Ravel, you can mouse over these things and get more information about each item. And I want to make sure you're aware. But when we're looking at a mouse event, and we say that we have that event that is returned to us that we're calling E, these are the kinds of things that are going to be available to us at that event with a mouse event. So we're going to know what the X coordinate was of that mouse position, the Y coordinate, where is the X and Y coordinate of the scene? Are they different? All of these different pieces of information. Did they press the control key? Is the shift key pressed? So we can get all sorts of different information out of that action event for our mouse click. So they have a nice video here that you guys want to watch that shows you how you can set up an action event to where whenever somebody moves the mouse, it moves an object along with it, okay? So do watch that one. Take some time to look at that because it's a really nice one. You'll like the way it works. And then key events. Sometimes we have keystrokes where somebody typed a key. And if they typed a key and that's the event that we're getting, we're going to see some different information. Like what character did they type? Was it an S? Was it an enter? Was there a key code associated with it? Was there text associated with it? Is the Alt key down at the same time? Is the Control key down at the same time? Whatever the meta key is that you've defined, is it down? So you can do all of these different checking of statuses in your key event. So if you were creating some sort of game or application that was really dependent on those things, you'd be able to check what the keystroke is. Now, these are the different key code names. So if I'm looking for what key they pressed, and I want to know that they pressed the down arrow key. It is down. I have page down. What about enter? It's just named enter. Sometimes it's named return, so that's good. So you can find all of your different key names, and here again is a key code event demo that's really good for you to run through and take a look at. Make sure that you see how those key code events are working, what's going on with it. And then of course our circle pane, to get back to it a little bit, for some mouse clicking events so that you can have some additional practice. Whenever you're looking at the chapters in our book, you have a lot of opportunity for practice. You'd never ever run out. Don't forget there's all the projects at the end that are all set up for you in Revell if you want it to answer or to tell you if you got it right, or you could just do it on your own. But everything is pretty good that way. Now we saw in the last chapter that we could set up something that was like watching, monitoring, another thing, and we were monitoring our circle. This is setting up an observable property, which is about the same thing, so that we can say, I want to observe this object, and if something changes about it, I want to execute an action event. So when we looked at that earlier chapter, we were just doing some code when that event happened, but now we see how we can set these up as action events. Let's look at our resizable circle rectangle. This is the one I wanted to do before we run out of time, but I think we better skip ahead to our animation. Now, the reason we're going to skip ahead to our animation is because Justin was working on our homework last time and he ran into a problem. And so we've got to make sure that we can actually accomplish our homework assignments for this week or change them if we can. So we've got to make sure that we can do the keyframe the way they want us to. So let's see if this animation, if we can do the rising flag, if it'll do it for us. I think it does. Yep, we should be able to. It has the definite problem. Okay, so what this application is going to do is we're going to try to use a Java animation. And Java FX does have animation support built in where it can run some sort of animation for you. So you could have a 3D model set, you know, if you had it rigged with its bone structure and everything, and you wanted it to do some sort of animation, you could run that animation using Java. We actually have a full animation class. So the animation we're going to create is that little flag that we used before, and we want to make it rise from the bottom of the screen to the top. So let's see if we can accomplish that. I think we have plenty of time, and then we'll have put this chapter to bed for us. So there is a video for this one. So let's create a new project. And this one is going to be listing 1512. Now that previous one that we skipped that was the circle, we have all the code for that one. You guys shall have all of that code. So if you want to try that one at home, it should go pretty quick. This one, I'm going to name my main class Path Transition Demo. I think I want to copy some imports. I'm going to go to our Lambda project and copy all those imports, and then we'll update them. Okay, so at the very top, I'm going to add a couple. I want to import javafx.animation.path_transition.
Does the order of the imports matter?
No. It only matters to you if you want to keep them organized in a certain way. And I want my animation timeline. And then after that, application.application, which we have. I don't need action event or event handler or geometry.pos. Yeah, it shouldn't cause us any trouble to leave them. Make sure that there's, oh yeah, we need one more to add. I'll put it up at the top under the timeline. javafx.util.duration.
I didn't get that.
Oh, sorry. There you go.
That's what it was. It was a direction import.
I was gonna say it. Awesome. I was so hoping as I typed that in that that's what it was. I didn't want to just ask you though. I was
We're
like,
gonna do that static one. Just for some reason, we did that one.
no, it's that NetBeans stuck that in there for me when I copied that project. I don't know why, so I just left it. It was like, you need this. Thank goodness Carlene had that weird import, huh? We need it that way as a reminder, and I was just staring at it. Why does this seem familiar? Couldn't think of a thing. Okay, so if we're set then with our imports, we're going to change our path transition demo to extend application. And we'll have our @ override for our start. Now, first we're going to make a pane. And then we're going to create a rectangle. Did any of you guys go watch them do the capstone presentations on Tuesday after our class? They're doing it again today if you have time. No.
She doesn't.
They're already so
I got it.
stressed, I guess. They don't want to just throw them right over the edge.
What time she did it?
At 1:30, right after our class.
Oh,
so-
so between the time I leave here and get the car.
Yeah. Well, that's when they'll start. Okay, so we're going to create a rectangle. We've created a circle before. Now we'll create a rectangle. And I'm going to tell it its size. Well, let's add that import in because I missed it. So do your Alt-Enter and choose it. Make sure you don't get that first one. Make sure you get the Java FX one. Do what?
Okay.
You see it? Now, yes. We've got a rectangle created, so let's set its fill to whatever color you like. They use orange. Now we're going to create a circle to put inside of our rectangle. This circle is going to be 125, 150. Before we'd only use the radius parameter, and this one we're going to use more. Again, do your Alt Enter. Make sure you get the Java FX import for the circle. Bless you.
Mine's very weirdly doing the imports for me.
Oh, is it doing them right?
Yes.
Okay, as long as it's doing them right. Must be a NetBeans setting.
Want to do that?
No, you don't want to do that. What if it does them wrong? You should be able to find it. Let's see. So, let me see anything. Tools options, is that where we are? Do you see it? It would seem like it would be in here somewhere. He said his imports were getting added automatically. Code completion. I don't know. Guess we'll have to find it and see what we can do with that. I'm sure it's a NetBeans setting somewhere. Okay, so our circle, let's create our circle. And then we want to set our fill. And I want to set our fill. They are using color white. And then our circle, let's set our stroke. And we're doing color.black according to them. And then let's add our circle to our rectangle. So we're going to start out by creating our, we have a pane already. We're going to update it, get children. And they add separately. We should be able to do an add all. And we should be able to add our circle and rectangle. Now they use two different add statements. So we should end up with the same results. Now we're going to create an animation. Whenever we are working with animation, we have a couple of things that we need to be concerned with. First of all, we can set up a path for our animation if we want to. So for example, since we put a circle, we could say that circle is our animation path. We could put this gold brick on here and tell it to follow that path, and it would just go in that circle, right? So that would be an animation path. Now, sometimes we might not have as specific as a path. We might just kind of give it a starting point and an ending point and let it decide how it wants to move between the two spots. We have some other things that we can set up for an animation, like how long it should last and how often we want things to be revised. Back to the right place here. Okay, now that we've got our circle and our rectangle set up inside our pane here, let's go ahead and add them to our scene. We'll call our scene scene, and it's a new scene. And we want it to include our pane, and we're going to make it 140 by 140. And then we want to set our title, resize. This is the one I told you could do at home, and we're doing it in here instead. Circle, rectangle. We're going to set up our scene and then set up our stage to show. Now we're going to use some serious lambda expressions here. With our pane, if the width property changes, we want to know about it. So we're going to add a listener, an observable, to that property. And it's going to sit there and watch and let us know if it changes. Now, if it changes, we would like to run the resize method that we're going to set up. Doesn't give me an error right now because we don't have that resize method created yet. Now, again, if the height of the window changes, I want a listener to tell me about that. And I want to run the resize method again. Now our resize method is going to go right past our main method. We're going to make it private. Now in our resize, we're going to set up a double variable to hold our length. And we're going to use the minimum method of the math library to tell us which is the smaller, the width or the height of our pane. So we'll say get the width, and for B pane, get the height. We need to do something with pane, don't we? Let's move those. So up at the top here, let's move our pane declaration and make it a class level variable. And then let's go ahead and move our circle. Let me find my circle object. Let's make it a class level. And our rectangle. I think that's all we need. Let's check. Circle, rectangle. And let's see here. They want this pane to be a stack pane. So let's fix that to be a stack pane. And that's going to need a new import. So yay, we can make sure that we get the right one. Clean up some of my junk here. So we basically just need to set our properties of our circle and our rectangle and all those great things. Now we were down here working on our pane, adding our listener, and then in our resize method, we should be okay now. We've, we can see our pane. We just made it a stack pane. I had made it a pane first, and it looks like they want a stack pane.
Yeah, do the import.
Oh, you got rid of the next one.
Just moving things around and messing you up.
Yeah, now we've done this down below.
Yep, get rid of them.
Oh, I'm done with that. That's
You good?
cannot find somewhere will be. On pane height.
Right here?
Yeah, it is no longer like pane height property, add listener will be. Oh, I see why.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, greater than.
All right. So in our resize, you're fine.
I'm blind.
You're good. In our resize then, after we've calculated that length, we're going to use our circle and set its radius to the length that we just calculated divided by 2 minus 15. And of course, that's something that they did a little bit of work on to come up with. It'd be hard for us to just pop up with those numbers. Now our rectangle, we're going to set the width to the length minus 30. And our rectangle, we're going to set the height to our length minus 30. Now in your main, go ahead and put your launch and see if it works. You should be able to resize that window and have your circle and rectangle change sizes.
Your rectangle is a lot smaller.
I can't get it to move. It's too small.
Mine's covering up all this.
Well, it got a lot bigger there. Yeah, it's covering up my circle too.
Yeah, I can barely see two sides of it.
Yeah, once you move it, it just covers the whole circle.
Covers it up. So
Yeah,
let's
like that's
see.
better than jack or whatever you need.
So try the changing your stack pane. What if you put them in the stack pane in the opposite order? Let's do the rectangle first and then the circle. See if that changes the way it behaves. Now I don't see my rectangle at all. Oh, there it is.
Oh, wow, that does make a difference.
So that works better. So since we made that into a stack pane, our order was much more important than it had been. So yeah, mine's resizing and it's doing some stuff. So we set that observable property on our actual pane so that if somebody's resizing that window, we would get control back and we would run that method, our resize method, based on an event occurring, the event being somebody resized the window, causing the pane size to be adjusted.
Mine just does it automatic.
Like without you resizing?
Yeah.
It's just happy. You've got everything working automatically. I don't know how you're.
We tried that.
Yeah.
Rectangle circle.
I mean, you gotta resize the screen.
Jim has got his mouse.
Circle and
It
rectangle.
won't show it until you move.
Oh, right. Whole points was
It's listening to you.
happy. Is it working?
Jim unplugged his mouse.
See if it still works automatically.
So
Now that's pretty cool. Now, we didn't get to the animation,
it's supposed
but
to
that's
be
okay
this.
because we know that the problem now was those import statements that we were getting an AWX import instead of a .fx, which maybe you think's not work. So if you have weird trouble, like it's saying you can't do things, check those imports and see if there's an old one messing you up. I'll forget about it even though I mentioned it every time. Now the animations you should see are not much different whenever you're working with an animation product. You're thinking about setting keyframes, which are key points within the movement that you want the system to calculate how it's going to move from this point to the next point, those key points. And then it'll do some animation on its own. Well, I'm going to move smoothly from this point to that point. If you've never done any animation at all, there is this program that you could try. Let me find it. This is like a really important program. And if you've never used it, you should download it just because you've never used it. Pivot Animator. So Pivot Animator does stick-figure animation. And you can create your stick figures. I don't know why stick figures always fight, but stick figures always battle. And then there's usually one of them bloody at the end. I don't know why stick figures are so violent. They are. But with Pivot Animator, it works really cool because you can actually set up your keyframes in your animation and make it all work the way you want. The reason I say that's a good thing to use is the terms are the same. So if animation is something that's completely foreign to you other than watching some Disney cartoons, you might want to try it because this is the most basic animation program there is. It's real easy to use, lets you create some animations really quick and easy so that you can feel a little bit more comfortable with those terms. We can't download it here because they won't let us. I'm hiding it from you. There you go. How's that? Any questions?
So with the assignment we're having, moving car, do we have to make objects for the wheels and all that? Or can it just be one image we put in?
It cannot be one image you put in. For your car, you need to build the car. Should you build the car and move each piece on its own? No. You should build the car in a pane, right? And then move that whole pane. So you want to do some inheritance there, and kind of like that one that we did last time where we created that separate pane object, that circle pane. So the circle pane example is exactly how you want to build your car on that pane, and then you'll just move that around. So try it that way. Because if you start, now a lot of people will turn it in, moving each wheel and each part separately, but oh, it's a lot harder that way. So
I know there's a simpler way.
yeah, and they do give you kind of the coordinates of how to draw the car. You can draw the car differently if you want to, just so you draw the car. So you can make it into whatever you want. If you want it to be a dune buggy or something instead, but you can use that picture they give you too. I think I got everybody's here. Let me check.
Oh, I didn't sign
I
in.
know I didn't give you guys a chance. I think we're all here except for Nick Snyder. Everybody else is here. You're good. I got you. All except Nick. Okay. Yes, sir?
On the hangman thing, you're gonna get asked, does it need to look exactly like that picture?
No. Just so you make something hang, Manny. Yeah. Whatever you would like your game to look like. So don't forget to go across the hall if you want to see the capstone presentations. And otherwise, have a great long weekend. I'll see you next week. Long weekend. We need it. I do. I need it really bad. Okay, let's bring that up and get you figured out. Can you tell what it is? We'll fix it.
We can look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that website is Animator.net.
What listing?
Darn it, I forgot to give you guys your stupid ducks again. Gotta remind me.
We only get the ducks if we pass a certain things.
No, you get ducks.
You're not Kirsten.
No.
What happened?
She's like, if you pass the test, you get one.
I'm not Kirsten. Not at all.
Those, you know, one thing it doesn't like. Oh. Sometimes if you read these, you kind of slowly, it's kind of you understand. It's a runtime section.
Later, you mentioned that the medicine doctor suggested.
Mhm.
Same.
I would suggest you get it because when that problem comes up on
I
you,
know they won't give it to me.
it will come up. to
So
you
if
the
you want
worst
to
possible
bring me one, I'll bring you one back if I have to.
time.
That's what
Funny, I
everybody
thought
keeps
about-
saying.
I thought
My
about doing
dad's
it
wife,
this
we
way.
went and saw them last night, and she was like, "So did they give you a prescription?" And I said, "No, they won't give you anything until you have the trouble anymore." And she
Oh,
was like,
geez.
"Oh my God, you need a prescription." And I said, "I know." She was the same way.
Yeah.
Well, what are you supposed to just start having a problem? And I said, apparently,
Bringing a change.
that's how the doctors work.
Tell him you did. Just go in and tell him you had a problem last night.
Well, so far everything's been so good. I keep hoping I don't have
Yeah.
it. Yes, sir.
It's nothing like living with the sword over your head.
The
So if you look
for tomorrow, as far as presenting goes, I couldn't find the exact software version from the Unity.
Oh,
so
okay.
I have to completely
Oh,
remove
here.
the
Oh, no.
actual
What are you making it on?
Unity.
It's your house? Do you have a desktop?
Yep.
Could you just make a video?
15.6. Oh no, I could run for my laptop in HDMI at 2 gig.
Can you?
Yes.
So don't redo anything because you can do that.
Okay. No, I still have to redo it because I made the one in here and had to transfer it, made a copy file just to be safe. Good thing I did, because now the one in here works and I have to re-put out all the character stuff.
Oh,
But
no.
as far as the script, all that works.
All that
I'll
works
just
and
have to
everything.
re-implement it after creating the object.
Okay. So you'll
So I mean,
be
that's
okay.
good.
It won't be super bad.
Oh, no.
The only thing I wish we had a DisplayPort cable. There is, and I mean, I could bring one from home. But I don't know if I guess we could still learn HDMI. Yeah, me too. That's all I have at home. And I could have sworn. I know I have HDMI to DisplayPort adapters, but
like a logic
usually
here or something.
I have
Right.
HDMI to HDMI, and that's what I use for my TV
I
to
think
my.
most of you will be okay with HDMI. Rick, since he has that Mac, but he wouldn't even need a DisplayPort, and I don't have any DisplayPort stuff for anybody. So he'll be able to do the screen share
to
Okay.
it if we need to do it that way. So
I have the whole action of
I
it.
think this
I
is
had
a
to-
lot slower with
So,
guys' games,
but you
but
need
at
to
least we'll be
parentheses
able to
after
do it.
you'll at least be able to see the main
Well,
majority
no.
and then get a person
I had that.
translation of at least a visual.
I'm
So where's-
excited. See what you guys have got.
I'm not the best at scripting whenever I'm trying
That's
to
all right.
sell because I feel based
Oh,
on the
it's
audience
super
at that.
hard. Yeah, it's super hard for all of you guys. And what'll happen is your audience is going to be so accepting that you'll start calming down and thinking of stuff to say, and they'll tell you stuff. And
Most part, I can think of it right on the fly, but that's what I tend to do. So the pre-scripting.
that's how I am, and it's bad. It's bad. You should not be that way. But that's what I do. If I give myself any sort of notes or script, I get so nervous I can't think of
Impromptu
thing.
speech all the way through speech class.
and debate and everything. And I mean, like, so my daughter, especially, she inherited my thing of not having notes, impromptu. So she was in debate for a long time.
So your
He
file
would pull
names,
her out,
what your
so
class
he
is.
didn't make her
So
do a
whenever
lot.
All
But if he had somebody that was getting too uppity, that he wanted brought
This
down
is
a
a
notch or two, he would pull my daughter out
This
to
is-
make her cry. And then he'd go, "How you feeling now?" And they'd be like, and he'd go, "That's better. You know, you still got stuff to learn." And he'd say, "Heather, good job." And she'd go back to sit down for a minute. And so people would just, but she had a lot of anger as a teenager, and she used it funny. Debate. It worked.
I can tell you brick walls are hard.
Yeah, no, I don't want to know that. I have a guy in one of the other classes that was talking about that yesterday, and I didn't know if I should do one of those bit reports, because he said his hand went through his mom. Do you know who that is? No? So I was wondering, because I'm really super concerned. So he was sort of saying it as though his monitor was the recipient of his anger, but then I couldn't tell if he was saying that or if it was like an accident. So I didn't want to send a written report saying he might have punched his mother.
Well, I mean, the hard drive's down there.
When was it one at home? Because if you punched one of these for sure, I'd report it. I'd be like, "Hey, you got your back." But so I'm not. I was kind of worried about him. Yes.
Oh, it's either hurt somebody's jaw or punch a wall. In that aspect, I can easily see
It's
the
the
variation.
wall free, monitor not free.
Tree, just gotta clean the bar down.
Ouch, I can't talk about it. I used to have friends that had those anger management issues. I know. It's crazy. I do too. But like I say, for me and my daughter, our anger management, we just took out on poor innocent bystanders and would bring them down to nothing, and then we would not be angry anymore. Just made that boy cry. It's
May
terrible.
not be the best.
No, probably not. That's what I keep telling her. You got to stop. She has a big talk with a friend tomorrow who is mad at her. And so my daughter's super worried because she's like, "I'm trying really hard to stay calm." I know. She's been talking bad about me behind my back. And I'm like, "Uh-oh, this girl is going down," and she doesn't know it. You know, it's like, "Oh, she shouldn't be doing that." She's never seen my daughter in "you are going down" mode. It's not a pretty sight. None of it. It's just like you want to be around a friend who's punching a wall. You get away from these people. Stay back in the clear to wait until they calm down.
Oh, we're just a simple walk in the 20-degree weather with just jeans and
That'll calm you down.
and I'm still burning up afterwards.
You're still what?
Burning up afterwards.
Oh, today? Or just when you're